Hey, what's up everybody? GameDad here, coming at you guys with the final video showcasing what remains in my Atari 2600 collection. Now, in previous videos, we went over all of the other games that I currently have, and here's what's left for you guys. Spider-Man was released for the 2600 in 1982 by Parker Brothers. I found this game to be a bit challenging because the physics of the web attaching to the building can be quite temperamental. In Squeezebox, released by the US Games Corporation in 1982, you play as a character that has to shoot the walls that keep closing in. This was a pretty fun and frantic game to play. In Stampede, released by Activision in 1981, you are off to the farm where you race around throwing your lasso to catch cattle. While very simple, this game was also a lot of fun. Now, when I first picked up Star Fox, released in 1983 by Mythicon, I instantly thought of the Nintendo version. This is not that. You fly around and shoot stuff. Okay, maybe not that different than Nintendo. Released by Activision in 1982, in Star Master, you fly around space in a first-person perspective. At least, that's all I could get the game to do. There must be more to it with it being an Activision game. Star Raiders was released by Atari in 1982 and is a strange grid-based space game. I didn't really understand what was happening in it though. I guess that's where the manual would have been helpful. Released by Atari in 1977, Starship was actually one of the first 9 launch titles for the Atari 2600. Unfortunately, this is another game on my list that the Retron 77 just couldn't play. Star Trek, released by Sega in 1983, takes an interesting approach to the way the game is laid out with information being displayed everywhere. In the upper right, you see your relative location, and on the bottom you can fire at enemies. I thought this game was actually pretty fun. Star Voyager was released in 1982 by Imagic. In this game, you navigate through space while destroying enemies that cross your path. Published by Parker Brothers in 1982, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back was the first licensed Star Wars video game to ever be released. The following year, it was also released on the Intellivision. Released in 1980 by Atari, Steeplechase is a horse racing game where you must consistently jump over and avoid hurdles. Very simple gameplay, but extremely addicting. Street Racer was released by Atari in 1978 and is a top-down style racing game where it looks like you are racing Indy cars through the streets. Released by Epix in 1987, Summer Games takes you to the Summer Olympics where you face off against various countries. The first event I played was the long jump. It did not go well. Released by Atari in 1979, Superman is one of those games that you would think would be awesome because of its subject matter. It's not. The gameplay was very sporadic and there was no clear goal as to what needed to be done. Super Breakout was released by Atari in 1979 and I have to say, this game is awesome. I've always loved breakout style games and this is one from the very beginning. Super Challenge Baseball was released by Mattel in 1982 along with several other games as ports from the Intellivision. This is a very simple isometric baseball game, but it gets the job done. Super Challenge Football is another game released in 1982 by Mattel. Just like the previous game, it was originally released on the Intellivision and then ported over to the Atari 2600. Being another one of the 9 original launch titles for the 2600, Surround was released by Atari in 1977. Unfortunately, again, this is a game that does not work with the Retron 77. Towering Inferno was released in 1982 by the US Games Corporation and is a lot like Firefighter meets Pac-Man in my opinion. You run around putting out fires while also dodging other fires so that you don't get burned. Track and Field was released by Atari in 1984. This game has multiple events and starts you off with a long jump. Again, I did not do well. Tron Deadly Discs was released in 1982 by Mattel and is a fun shooter-style game where you have to throw discs at doorways and enemies while using the environment to your advantage. Released in 1983 by CBS Toys, Tunnel Runner is one of a few different games released under the RAM Plus banner because the games had an additional 256 bytes of RAM in them. Unfortunately, my Retron 77 is unable to play games like this, but at least I got the title screen for it to load. Turmoil was released by Fox Video Games in 1982 and is a shooter where you have to move up and down while shooting left or right to get all of the objects and enemies as they pass by. Vanguard was released by Atari in 1988 and is probably the latest release Atari 2600 game that I currently own. This game is a side-scrolling shooter that also gives you the ability to shoot above or below your ship. Video Chess by Atari was released in 1978 and is just that, video chess. The graphics for the game do their job in identifying pieces and it plays pretty smoothly. Not a bad game if you're down for some chess. This is the last game I currently have of the original launch titles for the Atari 2600, and that is Video Olympics, released by Atari in 1977. This is also the last game of this video that I was unable to capture footage for with my Retron 77. Video Pinball was released by Atari in 1981 and is a very fun but simple pinball game. The physics aren't half bad, and the game does what it is designed to do. Warlords was released by Atari in 1981 and is a fun multiplayer game that has each player taking control of their area in a game of offense and defense. You must take out your enemies while also defending your base. Wizard of War was released by CBS Toys in 1981. This game is definitely another Pac-Man style clone game. It has dragons and a wizard, but it's a clone game. Arguably one of the best games for the Atari 2600, Yar's Revenge was released by Atari in 1981. This game was created by none other than Howard Scott Warshaw, who coincidentally also made arguably one of the worst games on the 2600, E.T. So there you have it, everybody. That is every single game in my Atari 2600 collection. Now, if you missed any of the other parts showcasing the other games, make sure you go ahead and check out those videos. You should see the card up above. And if you like this video, please go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, because I have new videos coming out every week. Now, as always, I'm GameDad. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you later.